I'm Dr. Chad Larson. I'm obligated as a healthcare provider to educate and inform my patients about different health-related decisions, whether we diagnose a certain condition and we come up with a list of potential therapies to consider. We want to discuss the information, the informed consent, and an understanding of what are the different things that they need to learn about with each of these sort of therapies and treatments, so that they can make an informed decision. That's really what it's all about. And you, I'm sure, heard recently that the Pfizer vaccine was approved for children ages 5 to 11. And so I put together some information that that can be found on the CDC website that should be a part of the information to help people make informed decisions about what to do with their kids. Making decisions for ourselves is kind of one thing, and that's kind of a separate issue of whether or not we need to make these same decisions for our kids. And it's likely that the approval process is the first step that needs to be taken, and it's going to be likely followed by mandates that kids of certain age groups get a vaccine to probably go to school. So this information is to help just provide more data so that people really can be making informed decisions. So one of those things to think about are the death statistics for children. So this comes from the CDC website, age 1 to 4. There's been 63 deaths, which is, in each child dying is completely tragic. It's horrible, actually. But sort of, if you look at the statistics, that makes up about 0.0087% of all the death statistics for COVID. Ages 5 to 15 has been about 172, at least of the time of this recording, and that represents about 0.0238%. So obviously, very, very low death statistics, fortunately, for kids. And how about hospitalization? So age 0 to 4, they represent about 0.07% of those who have been hospitalized in total, and ages 5 to 17, about 1.1%. So by and large, they aren't a significant component of the death and hospitalization statistics. And in fact, again, according to the CDC website, in fact, I have it down here, that 16 to 50% of the pediatric population that have been infected have been asymptomatic. Asymptomatic means no symptoms. So up to 50% of the pediatric population who have been tested have elevated antibodies, but have never been sick from COVID. So why that statistic is striking is because they were exposed to the virus, their immune system acted appropriately by making some antibodies, and the statistics are coming out from multiple sources around the world that natural immunity to the virus is quite a bit more robust than a vaccine-induced immunity. So part of the decision-making process, which parents have to go through, is, should I vaccinate my child? And maybe part of the data that you should consider gathering for your children is testing their titers. What are titers? Titers, the whole concept of titers was a very common thing sort of pre-COVID. People would say, should I go get vaccinated for XYZ pathogen or condition? And it's like, I don't know, let's check your titers and see. What are titers? Titers are antibody levels that indicate a certain degree of immunity to a particular pathogen, like a virus or something like that. And so that's a thing. This is something that's been, practiced in medicine for a very, very long time. And if the titers are at a certain level, in other words, if there's a certain amount of antibodies that have been produced, then it's like, oh no, you don't need to get the vaccine because you already have certain level of antibodies present, either from a past vaccination or a past exposure to that particular pathogen. So it's a little interesting that is not really a thing out there, but it could be. And this is something that I think parents should consider. That's just one simple thing to consider. There's lots of other maybe more complex things to consider, but as an idea, get the antibodies tested and see where they're at, see what the necessity is of getting vaccinated. Because if somebody has, especially a child, has natural immunity, you'd really want to have to think about, do they really need the vaccine? And like I said, the statistics around the world are that the natural immune response is more robust than the vaccine-induced immune response. So this is all just data. It doesn't matter on what side you fall and what you end up doing, but the idea is that you really want to make an informed decision. So in that regard, I'm going to go sort of off camera here for a second. But there is something that I wanted to just share here for a moment. I'm just holding my computer and I'm looking at an email that was sent out from my kids' school district. And they sent out, I think the title of it was something like COVID and flu preparedness. And they went through a list of places to get tested and what kind of things they're doing at the school to prepare and so forth. And down at the end of the email, there's a section called What You Can Do to Stay Healthy. And I want to go through that list that they have of what you can do to stay healthy. And this is things that are sent to the parents to kind of disseminate the information and think about for the kids. And so they are, I'll just read you the list. Regular hand washing, use hand sanitizer, stay away from sick people, avoid touching eyes, nose, and mouth, clean commonly touched surfaces, keep holiday gatherings small. If you are sick, stay home and avoid contact with others. So these are all fairly classic, public health kind of information. But the title of this section, and that's kind of the thing that I want to bring up, the title of this section is What You Can Do to Stay Healthy. So that list of things isn't really factually accurate with regard to what you can do to stay healthy. Sure, those things are good to decrease your exposure to a virus, but staying healthy is something that happens internally in the system based on things that we can do in our life. For example, these are things that we've talked about before, but especially with regard to kids, their immune systems are so eager to support the body and decrease the chance of infections kind of diving deeper in their system. As we can see by the statistics of COVID, thankfully, that kids are really quite immune from this. And it seems to pick on people who have maybe more compromised immune systems and those of the elderly and things like that. But fortunately, hasn't been, the statistics like we're seeing here are not super over concerning for kids. But this is not a list of things to help stay healthy. What we have to do to actually stay healthy is we have to optimize and sort of get adequate sleep. Adequate sleep is we can't overstate how important that is for the immune system. That's what it takes to stay healthy. Choosing the right foods, making healthy food choices. We did a video recently where we talked about, it was kind of geared more towards adults, but to really emphasize how important this is for kids. Holidays are coming and there's more sweets and sugars and kind of things like that, treats that are just kind of around more commonly during the holiday season. This is the season to kind of check that a bit for the kids. And okay, I'm not saying zero, but be very conscious about the amount of sugar, because this is what can make kids unhealthy. It can drop their immune system for several hours after a single exposure to sugar. So be very careful about exposure for sugar. So to stay healthy, avoid that as much as you can. Choose healthy, sort of anti-inflammatory, healthy foods. You know what those are. You really want to stay away from like processed fast food kind of stuff and feature more healthy, natural foods. Let the kids play. You got to let the kids get outside and play, whether it's, it doesn't have to be a perfectly nice day. Obviously, we're coming into fall and winter. They got to get out and move. Movement and exercise and just play is so vital for their immune systems. There's just fantastic science and statistics behind that. So those are just a few really, really basic things to truly improve one's health, especially for kids. Got to optimize sleep. So you got to really kind of check maybe device use late at night that can really cut into quality sleep time. make sure that the majority of the diet is healthy, natural whole foods, and you got to play, you got to move, you got to get exercise. These three things are cheap, they're free basically, and they're very, very profound when it comes to the immune system. So again, part of my job is I'm obligated to discuss this kind of information. I've been asked this already by lots of patients, so I thought I'd just kind of put this out there, throw some statistics behind it from the CBC, and really help you to make, an informed decision of what to do going forward. So hopefully this is helpful. I will keep reading the studies and bringing you the information. Until then, keep it real.